Good evening, campers, dreamers, and babysitters. And the time has arrived. Yes, I know for some of you, you've been dreading this day. For others, you have been anticipating it. For us, I think it's a little bit more on the anticipation side, mostly because, out of a lot of the reviews, I think that it was pretty split down the middle on the first Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. It seemed like you were either on board or you weren't. But we got a chance to speak with the filmmakers last year for that film, and they kept making pretty bold promises for this next one. They were saying that this is the film that they really wanted to make starting out, and I mean, this is really the time. This is the proving ground. This is where we get to sit and see a glimpse at what these two have cooked up for us, and I gotta come right out and say I was pretty blown away by the quality of a couple of things in this trailer, and I am more excited for this than I think I thought I was going to be.
Yeah, and even since we had the chance to do the interview last year in anticipation for that first film, going into the theater on that first viewing of the original, my mind was always on that second film because when we had talked to them, they said, we have a lot of big ideas. That second film is really our ideal film. That's something we really want to make. So as we were watching that first one, I think you can see it in a sense where they maybe were a little chained up in it, where they couldn't really spread their wings and do everything that they wanted. So, I think there were glimmers in there, and especially in our review, you could see that. We talked about the potential for that sequel, and I think, watching the trailer here and seeing the actual visualization of the sequel, you can definitely see what they had wanted to do. I think they're definitely taking in different paths. They're really expanding the universe, the lore there. And I gotta say, there are a few scenes in here that I find really compelling. I know in that first viewing of our review for the first one, I had mentioned, a kind of like a Killer Clowns vibe of them going out in the town. And I think, seeing that here, you're definitely getting vibes here, and with an up to body count, just from being able to see the trailer here, I think it's going to get pretty wild.
Absolutely, and I think the important thing that we have to keep in mind, especially with this one, is that it is the fact that they want to prove themselves. Is that we got Scott Jeffries and Reese Frake Waterfield here, who they've both are. When we spoke to them, they were very much uh, students of the game, as Luke likes to say. They understood exactly what that first film was. They knew that this was going to be something that they're not going to hit that vision, and they were going to put it all into the second one. And I can say the biggest improvement, and I know we've been seeing teases for this for a little while now, so it's not a total shocker, but those are just still images. And I'm talking about these creatures. Pooh, I think we see a little bit of Piglet in there, Owl, I mean, Tigger. It's like these are just very much huge improvements from the last one. I mean, they're no longer masks. They don't look like serial killers with masks on. They actually look like creatures, which is how they intended it. Now, that was something that I remember I had a little bit of a point of contention with, but I got on board with it because the first film, it was rather goofy with that. You could sit there and watch it, and it was fun. But this one actually looks like those creatures are going to be interesting and have some lore to them and have some more backstory to them. And I cannot believe how good Pooh looks, like with the blood in his eyes and everything. I mean, the claws, he looks actually intimidating.
Yeah, and just to see the progression from that first film, I know we're going to talk about it a lot, but it's really the only baseline we have to really compare. And like you said, with they really did look like human beings with masks on, and at that point, you weren't really sure if these were supposed to be characters, like the Winnie the Pooh kind of characters, or these were supposed to be kind of human beings in these masks. And as you got more of the story, you started to understand it. But like looking at the sequel here, you can really get into this idea that these are these actual creatures. And I'm really interested to see the timeline here of it, what the time jump is we saw in the trailer, we see Pooh coming out of the ground, which is really interesting. I'm curious what the exact story is going to be there. And just the visuals here. I know we're getting expansion in terms of character wise, like Owl and is Tigger in this?
Yes, Tigger is
Okay.
in this. Yeah, that was
Um,
him.
Okay, and so, just being able to see these characters and to see what the idea is going to be behind how they're all going to meld together. I'm really probably for my take, I'm really interested to see Owl. I feel like that could be a very demented kind of creature,
Oh yeah.
along with the rest of them. But just the visuals here alone, you can really see that progression in terms of that these are really feeling like creatures, and just the scene with Christopher Robin and Pooh, and just being able to see that claw and him come up and him to be actually verbalize, I thought was really interesting as well. And him, again, getting this kind of going out into the world where we have Pooh standing outside of the house with the bear trap, I think was, for me, I think that's a big takeaway for me. That's something that I had been wanting to see. So I'm curious if they're really going to move into a town here, kind of have those kind of real deep slasher vibes. That's what we're getting here in the trailer.
Yeah, I mean, they say that Ashtown's gonna burn, and that leads into what looks to be a pretty gory sequence. I know, speaking with Reese and Scott last year, they were very adamant that they were making jokes that they want Pooh to kill over 100 people in this. And I was kind of taking that as a joke, but I mean, like, looking at that scene, it's like a party or a rave of some kind. And yeah, it looks like they're gonna go in there and just slaughter some people. I mean, you see, it looks like, at least I can confirm that Pooh and Tigger are at that party. So I imagine the other two, if they're not already dispatched or off doing something else, are going to be in there as well. And yeah, I'm just super intrigued and honestly very impressed with just how this looks. And I mean, from a cinematography standpoint, I think that was something that we also had very much high praise for this team on the first one. Because say what you will about the how it looked as a whole, there were some impressive shots there, and there were a lot of shots that were very competent. Very competently shot, especially when it comes to a lot of just like the slower scenes when it's like they're stalking around the house and stuff. You could see that there was some effort put there, and it looks like they've just been able to finally kind of let the chains off, and they've been able to really make this film look like a high budget property. And I'm very impressed by that. I think that that's something that, seeing that improvement from that first film, like we said, we're going to reference it a ton here, it is night and day in my opinion. I think, like, from all standpoints. And I mean, the gore too. um I had some complaints, especially that swimming pool kill in the first film was very underwhelming. There were some good kills. I think especially the ending with the guys who get out of the truck and fight Pooh. I thought that was cool. Um, the gore looks like it's been turned up to 11 here as well. They really look like they're gonna carve some people up, and those practical effects, I'm glad to see that still sticking. I'm sure there will be some CGI blood here and there, but they're showing a lot of practical in this trailer, and that is good on them. I'm very proud of these guys for sticking to their promises there.
Yeah, and looking at that first film, like we said, it felt like they were a little chained up. You had to prove themselves to get to this second film here. And say what you will, I know there's a lot of pushback for the concept of taking these beloved characters. We're seeing it a lot now. But this one you can really tell that there is a labor of love here. And again, we're only getting these clips here. It's what, about an minute 30 or something. So you're not getting too much here, but from what we do see, you can tell that they wanted to put a lot of effort into this. And even going back to the original concept, hey, Winnie the Pooh goes out and kills people. You could have just slapped together something and just threw it out to the masses, and you probably would have got a lot of people still showing up for it, because you're going to have people that are like, wow, this is awesome, or I absolutely hate this. I can't believe what they're doing to these characters. You're going to have that audience there already. intertwined into whatever you're going to put out. But you could tell from that first film, they put a lot of effort into that from what they could. And then kind of moving into this second film, you can tell that they're really putting their fingerprints all over it. And when you went into talking about the kills here, that trailer RV scene for me,
Yeah.
I'm really intrigued to see what that is going to lead to. Just from those little tidbits that we got, seems already really intriguing. So I can't imagine the amount of gore that we're going to get. And I love them wheeling the one character into the actual hospital, and the visual of the gore, and then having the face all bandaged up. I think
Yeah.
that's great tension building stuff. So you can really tell that they're putting their effort trying to put this connective tissue into the storytelling. I know for me, I've seen a lot of this, and I keep getting these Jason Lives vibes in terms of like the rain, the RV, these things like that. So you can really tell that they're, again, students of the game, like you had mentioned, where they're kind of putting a lot of these iconic horror tones into this new age Winnie the Pooh. So I'm really excited for this one. This one really looks like they're really a lot of the rough edges they had in that first one. They're really kind of polishing and showing that, hey, this is really what we wanted to do, and there's a lot of teeth to this.
Yeah, and I was gonna bring up that RV scene because that pole when it gets stabbed through that girl. I mean that just gave me massive Friday the 13th part 5 vibes with Demon,
Mhm.
where he's just stabbing the pole through the outhouse there. I mean, it's like they definitely are paying a lot of homage here, and I'm just scrubbing through the trailer just so that way we don't miss anything here. But one thing that probably the final piece to this puzzle that we can pull from here is I'm very interested to see what they're setting up here with these kids that are getting abducted, and what that means, because it clearly looks like it's in Christopher Robin's past. It clearly looks like this is something that might play into what exactly is going on with these characters. Are the Winnie the Pooh characters like resurrected children? They say that they came from the earth. I mean, there's a lot of different directions they can go here, and I think when you have a wild idea and a wild concept like Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey, yes, you can sit there and you can take this and go off of just the goofiness of that. The fact that you're doing a Winnie the Pooh slasher series, and you can do that. But the fact that these guys are actually trying to put together what on the outside here looks like some interesting lore and maybe trying to give this some teeth, I can really tip my hat to that and appreciate it.
Yeah, and going back to a film that we had seen late last year, Five Nights at Freddy's, where they kind of had this concept that for me kind of came off a little more half baked. It wasn't really necessarily something that I was excited after seeing the film to say, oh, they did this well. I think looking at this, there are kind of tones of that here in Winnie the Pooh 2. I mean, from the trailer, we don't really know exactly story wise what we're looking at here, but I'm intrigued to see if they're going to take that idea that was presented and really score a touchdown in a sense with this one. Because again, uh, Five Nights at Freddy's underwhelming in terms of kills. We didn't really get a lot there. It was just something that was highly anticipated and didn't really hit for us. But like Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2 here, for me, seems like this is what I had wanted. Where they're really going to bring that hard R rating. They're going to bring a lot of gore, but then they're also going to bring this connective tissue and kind of start understanding the inner workings of the lore that was kind of established in that first one that they didn't really get to dive too deep into. So I'm really intrigued for this one. It looks like a lot of great ideas, already a lot of great gore. I mean, we talked about the flaming chainsaw, look phenomenal. So like for that one, for me, really, I think that's a great end cap for the actual trailer itself. It really gets you excited. There's a lot of great visuals here.
Yeah, and I agree with you. That chainsaw at the end looks intense. I mean, I really gotta tip my hat to the fact that we not only is Scott Chambers the producer on this, but he's also taking over the role of Christopher Robin here. That scene especially really sold me on that intensity there. I was very much like, oh god, that looks awful. Like not in a bad sense, but like the idea of just, okay, you got Winnie the Pooh here. He's got his flaming chainsaw. You're stuck in what looks to be like a bus or something. And yeah, he's got it inches from your face. Like, and it looks real. It looks practical. It looks like real fire. I mean, I'd have to go back and scrub through that frame by frame, but like that looks, yeah, like I'm looking at it right now. They lit that thing on fire, dude. I'm telling you. So it's pretty intense. I'm liking that a lot. I'm genuinely really excited for this. And, like, I think that it goes without saying that we were going to be excited for this regardless of even if the trailer came out and it wasn't, that impressive for us, just because it's like, this is a wild concept. This would be a Fathom events. We tend to have fun with them, whether we enjoy the movies or not. Because, like, we didn't really love the mean one, but we still had fun with it. We still talk about going and seeing it. And I still remember going and seeing the first one and having that packed theater and the energy in there. It can be a good laugh at it, have a fun time. I think maybe if this was at the quality of that first one, we get maybe this one, and then I'd probably start waiting for them to start popping up on, like, streaming services and stuff before I check them out. But I mean, if we keep moving in this direction and they can just up that budget a little bit more each time and get a little bit more creative and stick to those promises, I think they've got a promising future. And I'm really thinking that if this pans out well, they could redeem themselves in the eyes of some of these other horror fans who maybe weren't so big on this last film.
Yeah, and I mean, initially Terrifier did that with us, where we weren't
Yep.
big fans of the original, and Terrifier 2 really getting that bigger budget, the expansion of the lore, and really being able to deep dive into that character. And I think that's what we're going to get here with Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2 is, having that bigger budget, being able to tell the story you want to tell and really expand everything. I'm excited to see the expansion of the story between Christopher Robin and these characters. We got some of it in the original film, but it looks like the bulk of it is going to be dealing with Christopher Robin and those ties of him being a kid. So I really want to see what they're going to present there. Again, it looks like a lot of great gore here, a lot of great kills. It really looks like this film, if there was a lot of pushback initially for that first film of, not really doing enough, I think Winnie the Pooh 2 here is really gonna, bring the fire. I don't know, in a sense, but I'm really intrigued for this one. I'm excited for it. Again, these creatives playing in the horror space, telling these wacky stories, you can't beat it.
Absolutely. But alrighty, guys, it's going to wrap us up here for our Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2 trailer review. Lots of U's there to rhyme. But yeah, no, this was definitely a welcome surprise. I was very happy with how this panned out. And yeah, we don't have to wait that long, guys. We only got a month or so before this thing hits theaters. We're going to keep you guys posted on any more information that drops about, Winnie the Pooh. And I know they got Neverland Nightmares coming up from the same team. So, we're going to be kind of keeping an eye on these. Of course, we'll keep an eye on Steamboat Willie as well. So any of these kind of public domain horror properties, we know you guys love it when we talk about these. So we're going to keep up on it. And yeah, I am here for it. So other than that, we got a lot of great stuff on the channel. We just talked to the Merkins for about an hour and a half. Yes, that guy was super great. Always love talking to him. And yeah, I mean, he dropped a lot of big bombs in that interview. So if you are interested in the Merkins, the Slash Street Boys, check that video out. And yeah, let us know what you think about that. But yeah, other than that, I guess that's going to wrap us up here. So until next time, I am Dylan Newell.
And I'm Luke Janesco.
And remember, stay scared.
Do the horror shit, gonna do it live. Cause Splattercast kick it every day they live. Splattercast, gonna smash your ass. Splattercast, gonna smash your ass. Splattercast, gonna smash your ass. Splattercast, gonna smash your ass.